Palestine, Syria, Iraq, and most importantly to us, the United States Congress. Now, why do I say that? Because of how much money goes towards supporting Zionist policies. I'm going to give you an example, and this is from back before the 2008 election in this country. The largest single donor to the Democratic Party was a man named Haim Saban. The reason that the pro-Israel lobby has to give so much more money to the politicians than the other lobbies, such as arms manufacturers, oil, etc., is that supporting Israel is arguably not in the U.S. interest from any perspective, and the contributions are necessary to buy the politicians' cooperation. If I call my congressperson and I say, look, soldiers are coming home with PTSD, suicide rates for them are at epidemic proportions, highest since Vietnam, over 1 million Iraqis are dead. I want the occupation to end. Thank you so much for your call. And if someone else comes in from another lobby and says, look, I want the troops to stay there, and here's a check for $10 million, who are they going to listen to? People pushed and continue to push to hit Iran. This is not in anybody's interest to strike Iran. Iraq was a country of 26 million that had been starved by economic sanctions for 13 years and completely disarmed. First of all, now when I read this, I was like, people, they need American permission to use Iraqi airspace. In the new democracy of Iraq, with all its sovereignty, the Israelis need American permission to use Iraqi airspace. But maybe of a bigger consequence is that they need the U.S. Air Force. All the things that are happening in the media saying that, oh, you know, they're very worried about the relationship with Barack Obama. Michael Oren says Obama's response to lost ground during the close of the Bush years, he called that was warm and immediate, so that Israel can maintain its QME, its qualitative military edge. So we are giving Israel cutting-edge technology to give Israel a larger margin of safety. This is from the Jewish Daily Forward, December of last year. The American commitment, and this is what I'm talking about influence on Congress, the American commitment to Israel, Israel's qualitative edge, is now codified directly into U.S. law as of 2008 legislation. This requires the President to report to Congress periodically on actions taken by the administration to ensure Israel's qualitative military edge. Who are they answering to? We are the constituents, not 8,000 miles away. There has been a report submitted now for what actions have been taken. It's all classified. Now, again, better with the Obamas, increased cooperation since the election of Barack Obama on missile defense. In November of 2009, there was a huge joint American-Israeli exercise called Juniper Cobra, the biggest missile defense drive run ever, using 1,400 U.S. servicemen. What are they preparing for? And is that what you want American soldiers involved in? We are now selling F-35, which are now the cutting edge, the most supreme, I guess if they're going in order, I don't know military equipment, but if you're going up in order from F-15 and F-16 to F-35, that's a big jump. This year, they're supposed to be quote-unquote sold to Israel. We give them the money to buy them. Would our ally harm Americans? This is what we have to ask as we are giving them tons of armaments. Absolutely, and it's a documented history. There was a false flag operation on June 8, 1967, and the survivors of this are still seeking justice, so let that motivate you forward on finding out what's happening today. Again, I can only touch on it. There's a very good BBC documentary called Dead in the Water. I can send you the link. That is, the Israelis attacked the U.S. Navy and Marines. I'm sorry, I forgot the numbers. Killing 34 and wounding over 100 more. In 1983, when the Marines were deployed to Lebanon as a peacekeeping force, that the Marines said that the Israelis were systematically harassing them, trying to incorporate them into their own policy, which would then pit Israel's opponents against the United States. Rachel was a 23-year-old college student from Olympia, Washington, motivated by the attacks on September 11th to expand her world, see what was happening outside her comfort zone. And in 2003, she went to Gaza with the International Solidarity Movement to practice civil disobedience, to enforce international law. So on March 16, 2003, she stood in front of bulldozers that were trying to demolish the house of a Palestinian pharmacist behind her, which is in violation of international law. In the 3.5-hour standoff, she succeeded in deterring the first bulldozer, but a second one came, crushed her, kept the blade down, and backed up over her. Now, this happened on March 16, 2003. 3 days later, shock and awe started, and Rachel's story was buried in the dirt, as she was as well. In today's US dollar, over 113 billion. Israel is the largest total recipient of aid since World War II, and we just signed recently another agreement that will continue this for another 30 billion for another 10 years. Now, what's exclusive about Israel is that we don't even give it, like, you know, that's a lot. They're the biggest recipient. And Israel is allowed to spend over a quarter of that money in Israel, which has made the Israeli defense industry super sophisticated. So why does Israel need $3 billion of American tax dollars in military aid when they are now the world's 8th leading supplier of arms? It doesn't make sense. The war on terror, which we know has been expanded into Iraq based on 9/11, it's not a war on terror, it is a war of terror, and it is a war of illegality, and Israel and the United States are using exactly the same tactics. You could figure out how much money goes to Israel instead of your community. If we want national security, we need to stop denying it for others around the world.